This is Paul. Yeah, I was reading this dictionary. Yes. They have what's called a ballot. A slip of paper used in secret voting one's right to vote. Yeah. And then they have what's called bankrupt, legally insolvent in a condition in which remaining property is divided among creditors. Now, let's say yesterday I mentioned that those in office that had to have the qualifications to get elected decided that they weren't going to do what the job requires. Now, I would think that every person elected or appointed to office receives some sort of compensation, and I just want to know what they get paid for the last 30 years. What has been the annual income of every elected and appointed oath of office throughout the whole nation for the last 30 years? Because I know those elected, they're not the first person to get elected to those offices. There was somebody there that got elected before them, and they received compensation, and somebody before them. Now, when I looked at the actual employees of every campaign, of every person elected to office, I wanted to know the ballots of all of those that voted for them, and then those that voted for someone else, because usually when you have an election, there's more than one person. Could you get me the actual voters of every elected oath of office in the nation for the last 30 years? I know we have these voting machines now that seem like they're connected to the internet, and you wouldn't have been using electronic voting machines to influence the thoughts of those that were voting, were you? I just want to know the manufacturers of all the electric voting machines and all the voting locations during the last presidential election. Now, it's 2017, and it was just last year, wasn't it, that we had an election? So if you could get me every person that voted for all of those that are qualified to be elected oaths of office, I'd like to know who they are. Now, you didn't get that job just because you look good now, did ya? Somebody voted you into office. You raised campaign contributions. You did understand the qualifications of the office. You understood that the office is insured, as is your personal life. Now, when I send hundreds of thousands of emails that my constitutional rights are being violated, as are the rights of my sons, it could be that some cities or counties or states were thinking they'd have to bankrupt themselves. Now, I wanted to know every municipality that's had any prepackaged bankruptcy. Seemed like some cities were going into debt to the point that they thought they'd bankrupt themselves out of their financial problems. Now, quite often, when you look at the attorneys involved in bankrupting any municipality, any city, county, or state, I'd just like to know what law firms they belong to, and where are their attorney oaths, and where are their oaths of admissions, and what bar associations do they belong to. Now, it seems like cities have been a little careless with the money. I might have to challenge a few bankruptcies that have happened over the last decade, as if you decided you'd bankrupt a city because you didn't want to do what the law requires. Now, as that American citizen that's going to end up suing a whole lot of cities for a whole lot of money, bankruptcy's not going to be an option. Could you get me the bankruptcies of every city and every county throughout the United States? What attorneys represented them, and what judges heard the bankruptcy pleading.